It first came to this cabinet's attention last week that there is a very serious matter before the U.S. Department of Commerce and the U.S. Department of the United States International Trade Commission that affects Trinidad and Tobago. This is with respect to melamine, and what has happened is the government of Trinidad and Tobago and Methanol Holdings Limited, MHTL, has been subject to countervailing duty and anti-dumping duty investigations on melamine filed in the USA by a company called Cornerstone Chemical Company, who are manufacturers of melamine in the United States. And they first filed these complaints with the United States Department of Commerce, the Department of Commerce, and the United States International Trade Commission, the ITC, in December of last year. This came as a complete surprise to this government, the new government, and I was asked to investigate it further. And after investigating it over the last week, I became even more concerned, and I've apprised the Prime Minister and the Cabinet, and I'm now apprising the country, that what happened is we had a complaint made against us before these two bodies in the United States in December of last year. We then had a process whereby, and I'll give you the timeline, whereby we had to fill out very extensive questionnaires participating in this process. Now, complaints were made against Trinidad and Tobago and the People's Republic of China with respect to countervailing and with respect to anti-dumping of melamine products into the United States. My understanding is that the Republic of China decided not to participate. But of course, the government of Trinidad and Tobago did participate, as did MHTL. The countervailing complaint is against the government of Trinidad and Tobago, whereas the anti-dumping complaint is against MHTL. What is of great concern to this government is it appears as though a decision was taken by the past administration not to have, I would call it, proper and adequate legal resources put behind the government's case to defend the government of Trinidad and Tobago. So in other words, there was no independent legal participation by any independent attorney on behalf of the government of Trinidad and Tobago to represent the government's interest. What we had was the retaining of a firm of US lawyers and also the retaining of another firm of US lawyers by MHTL. And it appears as though the case was really driven by MHTL. So this, of course, is of great concern to us. What became more apparent is there was a preliminary determination taken by the Department of Commerce and the International Trade Commission that affects Trinidad and Tobago. And this was taken in February of this year, or in March of this year. And what it means is that currently we have increase in the customs and import duty into the United States of melamine from Trinidad and Tobago of about 172 to 174%. What then happened, and we weren't aware of this, is in June of this year, we had personnel come down from the Department of Commerce and the Department of the International Trade people, and they came into Trinidad and Tobago and did interviews with companies such as TN Tech, NGC, the Board of Inland Revenue, CLICO, etc. And the case is built around an allegation that the bailout program by the government with respect to CLICO and its relationship with MHTL gave MHTL an unfair advantage, and also their fiscal incentives and the provision of natural gas at cheaper prices than was prevalent in the United States, and as well as the provision of electricity. So it's a bit complicated, but they've made allegations and there's been a preliminary finding against the state of Trinidad and Tobago with respect to this. When I began to drill down on it, there was then a hearing that we weren't aware of, nor did we participate as a local entity by having our own independent attorneys from Trinidad go and put forward the best case. And next week in Washington, MHTL is going for the final hearing on the anti-dumping side. So the final hearing has taken place against the government of Trinidad and Tobago on the countervailing. So far as it stands, there appears to be a negative preliminary finding against us, and we're hoping that it will be overturned now that the final hearing on countervailing has taken place, and the final hearing with respect to MHTL and anti-dumping takes place in Washington next week. And again, we're hoping for a favorable outcome. But what this means is that Trinidad and Tobago, in our view, is not properly or adequately defended, and our industrialization and our competitive aspects of Trinidad and Tobago. And this has the potential now to negatively affect our manufacturing industry in Trinidad and Tobago. And there is potential precedent value that could take place with respect to potential other claims being made against industries arising out of Trinidad and Tobago because of our cheap cost of electricity and our fairly cheap cost of gas for the plants at Point Lisas, etc. So now what we found, and we believe that the former administration abdicated its duty to adequately defend Trinidad and Tobago against these allegations. But now this government has taken a decision, albeit unfortunately at this stage when we first became informed, to resist as much as possible these decisions being taken against Trinidad and Tobago. I don't want to preempt the final findings. There's been one set of final hearings, another set coming up next week, and then the final decisions to be taken. But this government is now aware of it. We're going to fully resource at this late stage. Unfortunately, the hearings are over for the government of Trinidad and Tobago, but we're certainly going to resource it going forward. So we thought it necessary and important to inform the population of Trinidad and Tobago that this serious matter has taken place, and we, the population, were not aware that it was taking place. But now that this government is aware of it, we intend to put proper resources behind it and see what we can do to protect the industrialization and manufacturing sectors of Trinidad and Tobago.